Hello, my name is Shamirka Earls, and tune into my episode on the MashUp where we talked about life after retirement, education, and civilian life.
Welcome to the MashUp. I'm your host, Sergeant Thomas, and today we have.
Shamirka Earls.
How long have you been in the military?
I was in for 20 years.
20 years, so you retired.
Yes.
So when you first joined the military, what did you come in as?
I came in as a PV2.
PB2. What inspired you to join the military?
So at the time, I was supposed to go to college, and then I got pregnant with my son my senior year. And so I didn't make it to college because he was going to be born in August, and that's when school was going to start. So I was living with my mom at the time, and I had to find some type of way to take care of me and my son. So
You joined the military.
Mhm.
So was that your first option?
It wasn't my first option because my mama, she wanted me to stay to kind of like go to school and she was going to help me, but I didn't want that. So
Okay. So when you joined the military, from the time you joined, from the time you retired, what was one big change you've seen through the service?
Mm. So the biggest change that I have seen since I came in is, I guess I would say, the camaraderie of everybody because, when I was in, back then we used to have a lot of like meetups, cookouts, a lot of leaders can, get together and intermingle with like their soldiers and then not be so like negative or taken upon fraternization and stuff like that. So
Okay. So I see you served as a SARC from 2016 to 2021. Can you explain what a SARC is and the responsibilities that you had with that?
So I became a SAR. It's a sexual assault response coordinator for the military. So basically, they deal with sexual assaults. And I ended up getting that. Well, first I was a victim advocate. Once I made staff sergeant, and to be a SAR, you had to be a sergeant first class or above. So once I made sergeant first class, then that's when I became a SAR on the trail. And basically, my responsibility was to handle like any sexual assault cases that the trainees will have or any other drill sergeants, that came about. So,
Drill sergeant, so you were a drill.
yes.
Were you DA selected or did you volunteer?
I guess you can kind of say both because at the time I didn't put my packet in, but then at the time my branch manager, she had reached out to me and I had lost all hope of doing it by the end because I was already like on the sergeant first class list. And so as soon as I made it, she called me and she was like, hey, we're needing drills, basically kind of asking, but telling me at the same time if I wanted to do it. So I told her the only way I would do it is if my husband can go with me to that duty station.
Was your husband also active? Or
Yes.
okay. What was that like? So you guys were dual military.
Yeah, so we met in 2014 when I got to Fort Benning, and he was a staff sergeant at the time. I was a sergeant, and so we got married in 2015. And upon us getting married, they separated us. He went to Korea, and then I went to Fort Riley, and so that's how I became the victim advocate during that time. So during that time, I served my time at Raleigh, so that was kind of like the time. You know how you go to your duty station, your time starts or whatever. So by the time he got to Fort Riley, they were like trying to say, he hasn't been here long enough. We didn't want to move, but my branch manager ended up working it out to having us both to move. So
So were you and your husband both drill sergeants at the same time?
no, only me. His branch manager didn't put it in time for him, so I was the only one that did it.
But you guys were still able to be stationed together.
Yes.
Okay, that's really good. So while you were a drill sergeant, what was your leadership style?
So my leadership style, and basically this has always been my leadership style. I never changed for nobody, but I always looked at it as even though the trainees were in basic, they were still human beings. I still treated them with humane and, ensure that they were getting the proper assistance and training that they needed. And a lot of drill sergeants, didn't like me for that because they say I was too nice or yeah. So they looked at it as me like being the friends with the trainees, but I looked at it as they're still humans
That's
going through 8 weeks of basic training.
So that helps lead up to the next question. So I'm not sure if you see, but basic training, the style has changed a lot. Like they got rid of shark attack.
Mm.
And I was going to say, how do you feel about that? Because a lot of people would say it's turning us into a really soft army.
So I was actually on the trail when they started taking away the shark attack. And I can kind of see why, because when I first seen the first shark attack, some drills were taking it overboard, to that point. But I look at it as in a good way of taking it away, but I mean in a bad way, because at the same time you don't really have to do
Do
all of that
at all.
to get soldiers to do what they need to do. So I mean it's good that they took it away. I don't see it as it made them soft though.
Mhm. So you say you were the Sark while you were drilled. Was there anything specific that happened to make you want to pursue that?
So once I took the victim advocate job in, like I said, in 2016, it was just that was just my passion of like helping people and actually listening to some of them stories, just being at Fort Riley and then going on the trail and seeing how some of the trainees were, I guess I would say, taken advantage of by some drills or some of the leadership. It went to show me like that they were scared to kind of advocate for themselves, so they needed somebody to advocate for them.
And
So,
that's good that you decided to be the one to stick
hmm
up for them, especially as a drill sergeant, because I know a lot of people are scared of their drill sergeants thinking they can't talk to them or that, you need to, they're your leader, so you're not supposed to be friends with them. But that that's good. I know you made a big difference in a lot of people's lives.
oh yes, oh yes,
Do you have any deployments?
I do. I have one Iraq and two Afghanistan.
What was the biggest challenge you faced during those deployments?
Mm. The biggest challenge for me was leaving my kids at such a young age and being gone for 12 months to 15 months at a time. Like that was the biggest thing. And at that time, I wasn't married. And so the only basically family that I really had, like my family was very supportive, especially my mom. So that kind of gave me a sense of comfort to know that my kids were still good and being taken care of.
What was there anything that you did to stay motivated during those hard times?
Oh yeah. So that's when I started doing my college journey. And my leader at the time, she had kind of like took me under her wing and like kind of showed me the ropes and stuff. So we would basically go to the gym, like do certain things. We did go on a lot of missions. So I kind of like stayed busy. And then every chance that I got, I was able to like reach out to my family, just to make sure everybody was doing good and stuff. So
So from your first, how many times you said two? Two
three.
deployments? Three deployments. So when you found out about the first deployment compared to the third one, was there any mindset different between them?
So the Iraq one, that was a little bit more intense than, because when I went Iraq, that's when the war was like really still like hitting off hard. So we were threatened by, a lot of bombs and attacks that were going on. So my mindset at the time was that first woman, I was getting out of the army. Like I had no intentions of staying in, but then, once I made it back and decided I still wanted to pursue that career, I just kind of like looked at it as taking care of my own the next deployments.
Okay. So while you were in Iraq, how you said there were threats, those dangerous things, is there anything that you needed to do to cope with that once you returned?
At the time, because back then it was frowned upon to do like mental health evaluations, so it was just kind of like I thought about the things that happened and the things that I saw, but I just kind of like really just wanted to deal with it in my own way.
And did that affect you long term? Like
Oh
not
yeah,
speaking up
most.
about it?
Oh yes, most definitely it did. Because I would talk to people about it, but it'd just kind of like be like a normal conversation. But then the more I like thought about it, and was like, man, I can't believe I like really saw that, or that mortar hit our building or something like that. So it was like mind changing.
Yeah. Is there any advice you would give to anybody that is currently scared about going on a deployment?
I would just say, stay vigilant. I know everybody's, into like cell phones, social media, not thinking the threat. is not out there, but to take it serious, because even though, I mean, now stuff is still happening. So you have to take these deployments serious, because back then we didn't have cell phones, being deployed. So our focus was the mission. And that's why a lot of people, were saved, because we didn't have those distractions.
All right. How has your education influenced your career inside and outside of the Army?
So being in, like I say, when I took the role as victim advocate and a SART, I never really thought that I would look into doing counseling, because, like I said, my focus was criminal justice. And then once I started taking on those roles, it started to make me think, like, because everybody always came to talk, about their issues and problems. So that's what drew me more to counseling. And so once I seen that, I was like, this can be very beneficial after I retire, because people are still going to need help. They're still going to want counseling and need the assistance they need. So why not just go into the counseling role? And so that's what made me pursue into it while I'm getting my master's and my doctorate.
So are you counseling now outside of the Army? Or are you still just
Now I haven't started yet, because, like I said, I have two more classes for my doctorates to be completed. But I mean, I've seen people start doing it prior to finishing their degree. So with me just retiring, I'm still kind of like getting myself together, seeing what tests that need to be done in Georgia in order for me to get my license.
okay? So you retired April 20th, 2024.
April 1st,
April 1st,
2024.
April
Yes.
1st, 2024. That's like 3 months
Yeah.
ago. How does it feel to be done? Like
uh,
20 years.
Pretty excited. Nobody, I mean, I guess at first I was afraid, because I started thinking about retirement my 19th year when I first got here. And then at first I was like going to continue, because I was getting looked at for Master Sergeant. And in 2021, no, 2022, the list had came out and I had became number 27 for Master Sergeant. And so I'm like, okay, 27 sounded close, but we know with the Army that that's a long time.
Yeah.
So as time went on, my job, I worked in First Army, so my job wasn't that difficult, but I had to go TDY a lot.
Mhm.
And while going TDY a lot, I was leaving like my husband back with the kids. And even though my mom was here, she just been around kids for so long, so I was not trying to like continue to let her keep doing that
Keep doing
role.
it.
And so I felt bad at the time going TDY. My son, he's autistic. And so with him going to school, some days he would like have like difficult times, and my husband had to go leave to get him. And it was just, I just started to like really feel like, okay, I need to be there for my family. Like if I made it this far, why not just retire so that I could focus on the kids and not having to feel selfish or leaving my husband behind. So I started planning and thinking about it, but I was also still thinking of staying in
Mhm.
because of the Master Sergeant. So as time went on, and it was showing like, okay, nobody's getting picked up for Master Sergeant. So I just kind of like pulled it and was just like, you know what, I'm gonna just put my retirement packet in. Everybody was, even my sergeant major was like, just give it time, it's gonna come. But then I started thinking, it was like, well, if I do take the Master Sergeant role, I'm gonna have to get the Army 3 more years.
More.
And then I'm gonna have to leave. And I just bought a house here. The kids were kind of getting settled with therapy, and I just didn't want to just keep up and jumping, for the Army. And so once I was like, me and my husband, we talked about it, because it wasn't just something I did. And he was just kind of like, we're gonna be okay, because he medically retired in 21.
Okay.
And so he was just kind of like, you're gonna be okay. He knew I loved the Army, and so he was like, you're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. And so I was just like, okay. So I was nervous, thinking about it and the changes that are happening, because I'm so used to the first and the 15th.
Man,
And
what?
when you retire, you only get paid once a month at
Yep.
the beginning of the month. And so I was like, man, like that's gonna be an adjustment. But
But at least you don't have to go to work every day to get it.
yeah, that is true. That is true. But since being out, it's just been such a joy. And a lot of people was like, you're gonna miss it, you're gonna miss the people. And I was just kind of like, I don't see where they get that from, because I know I haven't missed a beat not one time of getting up. I can get up, take my kids to school. I can go back home, get into bed, and not have to worry about nobody texting me or calling me saying where you at. And I do sub, so I do like I kind of stay busy, so I do sub at the schools as well. So on my free time.
That's great. That's good. What advice would you give to somebody who's about to join, who wants to do everything you've done, the education, the family, work like full 20 years? Like what advice would you give somebody?
So what helped me throughout the way, and I would say this for anybody, because I mean the army isn't for everybody, and it really wasn't for me when I first joined. I can honestly say that, but I looked at ways to be like, I wanted a stable career once I retire,
Mhm.
and retiring at 39, like everybody's like, wow, that's young. So I was gonna say you can do it. Don't let others people um advice or don't I didn't mean to say that. Don't let other people's, I guess I would say, opinions dictate from how yours would be,
Okay.
because my experience was could be different from somebody else's, and so could yours. So I would just say look at it and go in with like an open mind. Don't take anything personal. Save your money,
Hmm.
and don't you don't have to be out in the clubs and the streets all the time. Take it serious. They're paying for your college,
Yeah.
and so get the money. Go to these schools, when you come in, and just do something that you're going to see yourself set up for in the future.
So now that you're done, what are your plans for the future professionally and personally?
So late, well, now I don't want to do anything for a year. I just want to take a break. I want to finish these classes, and I do plan on, like, I want to open up my own practice for doctorates. And once after I do that, I want to kind of stay in this area because it's military base wise, and it's a lot of soldiers would need counseling. So professionally, I want to try to open up my own business. So.
You're not thinking about doing being a civilian for the military?
So I have been thinking about that, but the only thing is I don't really want like a demanding schedule
Okay.
because, like I say, of my son, especially being autistic, and some days, he would have a bad day, and they will call me, and then I would have to go pick him up. So I don't want to be on a job, and then it's like, oh, I gotta leave, I gotta go, and then we're back into like how I was in the military.
Yeah, that's understandable.
I mean, if I can do it from home, that'd be perfect.
Mhm.
But just being at somebody else's job, I can't do
Yeah,
it.
been working for somebody for 20
Right,
years. Now,
exactly. Can't do it. Mm-mm.
so what legacy do you want to leave behind for all the soldiers that you've trained and mentors and all the other leaders that you've met in your career?
Let's see. I do still communicate with some of my soldiers, and even some of the trainee soldiers that I had, and they still continue to thank me for just being who I am. Not just being fake, because I that's never been me. So what you see is what you get. Like, it's nothing. I'm soft spoken, but I can be stern. But it's a way to get things out. So my legacy is you don't have to be that NCO. You don't have to be that toxic NCO. And I'm sure we know there's some toxic ones out there. But you don't have to be toxic to get your way through the soldier. And I think that's kind of like what helped me throughout my career, is not being a toxic leader.
Mhm.
So
You were able to connect with them.
right.
So,
I've never really, if I did bump heads with like people throughout my duty station, it's because I basically didn't fall into that toxicity. So,
so your soldiers listen to you out of respect and out of
oh
fear.
yes, oh yes.
Okay, that's good. That's good because I know a lot of NCOs now prefer their soldiers to fear them and feel like they
Mm-hmm.
have to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
If I respect you more, I'm just going to want to do it because
Right,
I want the best for you. I want the best for us. We need to work together.
right. Because don't no soldier want to work under toxic and fear.
Yeah.
It's same thing for kids. Like, they have bad days when they feel fearful. So
So, what is the last piece of advice you want to give to any soldiers?
my last piece is, if you want to make it to 20 years, you can. Don't say, I can't do this, because once you start saying the word I can't, and that's when your mind will start taking you away from what you really can do and pursue. So I used to say I can't a lot until I got out of that mindset of everything is I can't, even still to this day. Like, if I want to do something, I say, I can do it, and I do it.
It's a mind game.
Right,
So,
exactly. It's very mind. Same thing I told the trainees in basic training. Y'all know this is a mind game. Like, you don't take it serious. This is a job. So
all right. Well, thank you guys. This concludes this episode of the Mashup. If there's anything else you would like to hear about, anyone you would like to see, MOSs you want to speak to, subscribe, like, and comment below. Bye.